I'm sure that you don't believe me, but I have never painted a blood angel before. In fact, I've not painted a lot of things before, but blood angels are hot topic right now, so it would be remiss of me not to try and capitalize on that, right? I've not looked up color schemes, I've not looked up any lore, I've not done any practice runs. I don't know anything about blood angels really beyond the very top level stuff. I'm just coming into this sort of unlubed. So let's see if I can get it right for big Louis Dante, or Louis Dante, or whatever his name is. The Blood Boys. The Blangels. The Reddos. Reddos. The Blood Angels. Blood Angels. Come on the drips. Right. Obviously, being an enterprising lad, I figured I'd do my research first. So, thought a good starting point would be artwork that I could use for inspiration. As well as Warhammer's official paint jobs, I found an incredible Russian artist called Marat Tajedinov, aka TazMar, who I have linked in the description below. His super stylized Blood Angel artwork almost felt concept-y arty and was the perfect red tones that I was going to aim for. I also noticed that oddly the Assault Intercessors I found painted up by GW had yellow helmets, which honestly I'm not a big fan of. Who wants a yellow helmet, am I right? Anyway, that prompted a dive into helmet colours to make sure that I wasn't going to annoy any Blood Angels fanboys too much if I made the helmet red. Rest easy though, red helmets are allowed it seems, it's just GW have sort of made some changes along the way over the years, and also, if you must know, Inceptors, Incursors, Outriders, Reavers, Assault Intercessors, Assault Squads, ATV Drivers, Attack Bike Riders, Land Speeder Pilots, Storm Speeder Pilots and Assault Centurions all get yellow helmets. However, Intercessors, Infiltrators, Captains, Terminators and Tactical Marines get red helmets. Thank you Blind Hamster from the Bolter and Chainsword forums. With that out the way, I threw my saved pictures into Pure Ref, a free app for, I don't know, like moodboarding or whatever, and I got on with the painting. I was tempted to prime these fuckers in red for obvious reasons, but sense got the better of me and I went with black. You can see they're not completely covered, priming wise, or at least the covering power of the primer hasn't like drenched the model and removed all the detail. I think people forget that primer can be quite light as a coverage. As long as your paint can get some purchase, it's going to be grand. But with that in mind, I figured really I'd need to at least cover the black bits with at least one coat of black. Oh, actually, let's look at the paints that I used and their Citadel equivalents so that you can get all your paint orders in. You can pause the video here and fill your boots. So once the black was in the relevant parts, I grabbed Black Red, because ultimately this was the main colour on almost everything. It took me a while to get this base coat down. I'm working in sub-assemblies here. I did somewhat cheekily build an Intercessor with an open pose, so I wasn't fannying about too much with guns covering chest pieces, but I still had to split this up so that I could get into those details. I kept the head, the backpack and the left arm off for now. I pinned them to cork so I could paint them separately. Anyway, after a single coat of black red, you can see that the covering power is good, but not perfect. So I did a second coat of that to make sure that all the red areas had a solid foundation, and because you could say I had a red thirst. Okay, no more lore jokes, I promise. Mostly because I didn't bother to read up on any, and the whole Black Rage Bloodthirst thing was the first thing that came up. On with the red. So, in this case, burnt red, or, well, a mix between black and burnt red to begin with. With this layer I covered almost all the red areas except the recesses and the lower facing areas basically, maybe like 80-90% of the previous layer. I was winging it to a degree since I wasn't really sure if this layer would really make a huge amount of difference. A more noticeable difference however was when I went in with pure burnt red, and this might be one of my favourite AK paints. Again, I was layering this up towards the brighter areas, but probably, let's say 80% of the previous layer. You can start to see the difference between that and the previous layers now as we build this red up. So the next jump up was a mix of deep red and burnt red. I tried to get a nice mid-tone and then use that on the upward facing areas yet again. I imagine you can see there's a bit of a pattern emerging here, you know the drill. Fortunately, successive red layer takes less time to apply. Not quite ready to go to pure deep red yet. I added some more deep red to the mix that I'd already made and decided to layer up with that colour. Same deal as before, a wee bit less area. Then finally we made it to pure deep red. This paint is a great colour, but it has less covering power. So I spent a bit more time working this one up, and I probably ended up with maybe a couple of layers total. As well as starting to go around the edges and do some of that sort of pseudo edge highlighting type stuff. Now, next was a jump to the sunny skin tone, a sort of light yellowy orange colour, which is ideal for a bit of edge highlighting. I didn't edge highlight absolutely everything, but I did do the upward facing areas and some of the more obvious edges just to sort of bring it all into focus a bit and give it a bit of definition. From there, the red was good to go. And it was time to sort out the black areas again. The shoulder pad trim, in this case I decided would be black because, fuck, I can't do everything red. Like, I know they're blood angels and all, but like, Christ, red all over is so uninventive. Now, next up I decided I'd try something I did not expect to end up doing here. Freehand. I couldn't be hooped getting any transfers out and mucking about with all that, and I wanted to really push the brushes that I was using, which by the way was a combination of Hawk Miniatures and Cryptic cabin brushes, which I've detailed in the description below. So the easiest freehand to do was the drip. I figured that although it's yellow in some of the information about shoulder pads, I'd keep a sense of uniformity here and use the sunny skin tone paint since it was sort of yellowy anyway, right? So with a brief inverted cross type shape that I did in pencil, I just threw myself into painting a drip. Like, so far, not bad. I think the key with freehand is remembering that you can tidy it up with the base coats too, and although I'd done some blending over that shoulder pad, it actually wasn't too bad to just try and approximate those mixes again for the sake of a few tidy up lines. Now, unfortunately, I was pot committed with these freehands, and next up was the knee pad. Now, according to the documentation on such things, the appropriate pad should be black, and that's not a massive issue. I was able to paint it black, no problem. But then it also has a white skull on it, right? A skull, on the other hand, is, well, you can see for yourself, right? So I kind of got the rough shape, and then my first shot at like the nose and the teeth part were a bit off and they were too big. Luckily, again, this is just black and white, so it was easy enough to cover, go over with and then try again, and I feel like I got lucky the second time with that one. Now, it wasn't perfect, but I think like just jumping in and giving it a go was honestly like joyous and kind of a bit nerve-wracking. So I tidied that up after a little while. I just wasn't quite getting there, but we got there in the end, and fuck, I even got a wee bit fancy and tried to do like a bit of shading above the eye holes. Next up, some boring black and grey bits, right? First grey was like, I don't know, dark grey, I guess, like some weapon panels, Under Armour bits, like ribs, Aquila basic highlighting, pretty much about as exciting as the queue at the post office. After that, same again with a lighter grey, but obviously no weapon panels this time, a little bit more selective with the edges, upward facing edges. And yeah, when that was done, I was like, okay, time to glue this little prick together. Basically, my thinking was if I did that, then I could see which bits of the gun wouldn't matter to paint and save myself a ball ache painting things that nobody was going to see. Final hurdle, and possibly biggest challenge though, was the sort of Blood Angel's winged blood drop insignia thing on the wee guy's left shoulder pad. Again, this one got some basic lines in pencil first, just to get those basics in, this kind of shapes and the proportions, and then I started at it with black paint, and like somehow this managed to come together. And again, yeah, it's a bit rough, but some tidy up, and honestly I was quite happy with my efforts. Doing these 3 freehands like gave me the confidence that really a lot of the freehand symbols and insignia that you see on the stock Warhammer paint jobs are largely basic shapes. So if you can see those basic shapes and work out how they can be dissected in order to paint them, then that's a big help when it comes to do freehands. Like, I'm not some fucking expert now, not by a country mile, but I'd have hoped that almost 20 years as a graphic designer counts for something. So, as you can see by my palette here, I was absolutely convinced that I'd filmed myself painting the eye lenses. But turns out I had clicked the wrong button in OBS. So yeah, you'll just have to imagine me expertly painting in the eye lenses in 3 green colours plus like a wee white dot and some super nice shading, some extra green around the rim of the eyes and all that good stuff. Like, honestly, it might have been the most incredible paintwork you'd have seen on film, but alas, you'll just have to pretend that you saw it. So yeah, let me know in the comments if that was your favourite bit. So yeah, silver now. I toyed with doing non-metallic metals here, but I was a bit sick of painting the guy by this point and I was ready to stop, so I figured like a simple true metallic finish was going to be better anyway. Gunmetal first on all the relevant parts, and then edges in silver, followed by a simple wash of Nuln Oil just to dull things a bit, since I don't really like the metals taking over. And that was it. I wasn't dicking about with a base since I didn't have one handy, and actually I quite like this guy without one. I'm really chuffed with how he turned out. I do like working with red, although do not expect any Blood Angel armies from me anytime soon. I have way too many other projects on the go. But I would love to know what you think, where you might improve things, what surprised you, what didn't surprise you. I don't know, you figure it out. Just comment. Please. So before you comment, I know that this is my first Blood Angel, but it's not my first miniature. It's not even my first Space Marine, not by a long shot. So this isn't about, ooh, look how shitty my painting is, because that's not the point here. Point is, I wanted to show you how I would approach red armour. Turns out I also threw in a bit of freehand, didn't expect to do that. Everyone loves the drips, and I needed to do a Space Marine video so that the algorithm on YouTube would throw me a fucking bone. If you feel sorry for me, try to build my wee old channel on the big old platform, then you could like this video, and that shows YouTube's algorithm that this video isn't shit. And if you want more from me, then you can click subscribe for free. It doesn't cost you any money, you're not paying, unless you pay for YouTube Premium, in which case you are paying. Never mind. It's free to subscribe, and you should see any more videos when they're released. Even better, go now and watch all my other videos in their entirety, start to finish, and then we're really talking. If you would like feedback on your own painting, you want to chat to others who are new to the hobby, or you want gear recommendations, brush recommendations, or anything like that, I try to help people on my Discord, and there's a good bunch of us there now, and you can find that linked in the description below. It's also free. If you want to see the other stuff that I'm painting, then you can find me on Instagram, Alex Paints Tiny Things. It's not all Space Marines. In fact, it's rarely Space Marines. So if that's a bit of a turn off, then sorry. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Goodbye.